Hello, I'm Sandy Peckinpah, Golf Guy, a Golf 512 joined. Thank you for joining me. I'm so glad you're here. Liberty is in the house. Julie's in the house. Yay. So glad you're here, and already the hearts are starting. Boy, do I love that. Look how those green and blue hearts look so good with those flowers in that picture. Cynthia's here. Oh, this is wonderful. So I'm Sandy Peckinpah, and I love scoping about using your life story as the backdrop for the best life you can ever imagine. I'm an author, a coach, and a business entrepreneur, and mostly I'm a mom. Hi. Oh, I'm so glad. Let me see if I can just get those roses in the picture. Can you see those? Yay. I went out and picked those roses just before the broadcast because in a story that I have told before, I always try to keep roses in my office because it reminds me of my son. And, PAPAED joined. Welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight. And so I'm so glad to have this opportunity to talk with you because today's going to be a little bit different scope. If you were on my Periscope earlier today, I had a lot of fun and a lot of interaction that I just loved. I'm part of the Periscope Challenge, and the question of the day was, if you could, what would you tell your 10-year-old self about life? And so that Periscope was so much fun because we had a lot of interaction, a lot of people joined, and if you haven't had a chance to look at it, you can go into my Periscope profile and find that broadcast because it's a lot of fun. I think you'll enjoy it. But it also was sort of enlightening. So today I'm talking about something so important, and it's the thing that motivates me every day, and that is to uplift and bring hope. And today is going to be a little bit different because being a writer, what I did today, the first thing was write. And the reason that I wrote is because I woke up this morning and it was yet another December 19th. And December 19th has come every year in a very sometimes painful way because it's the anniversary of the loss of my beautiful, beautiful son. Garrett was just 16 when he died. And I don't know if I've shared the details with you, but I certainly have in my book, How to Survive the Loss of a Child, here, How to Survive the Worst That Can Happen. Where did I put my book? I was going to hold it up for you. My book, How to Survive the Worst That Can Happen, is a parent's step-by-step guide for healing after the loss of a child. And unfortunately, I learned it firsthand, as some of you have experienced loss firsthand, and we're all in life, which means that at some point in our lives we're going to experience loss. But today, I decided today would be about hope and recovery and celebrating the life that my son experienced on this earth for 16 years. 16 years, 3 months, and 10 days. So I used to think that his life was in a container of that time. But what I didn't realize is that my son's life continued on after his death. And it's because his life meant so much that he left a legacy behind. And that's what all of us have, is our legacy. And what is our legacy? It's certainly not a bank account or, things or a car or any of that. It's who we are and what impact we had on the planet. That's our legacy. And he taught me not just to live every day as though it just belonged to me, but to live every day expressing love and being in love with life and being in love with people and bringing hope and joy and being there when there's sorrow. He taught me all of that in his loss, and I am so grateful. So how did it happen? A lot of people ask me that, and I don't know if I've not really fully shared it. And again, I have in my book. He came home with a fever on a Saturday, and I took him to the doctor, and the doctor diagnosed him with the type A flu, and it was going around at the time. He had a temperature of 102, 103. And for a 16-year-old boy, you know, kids have temperatures. I took him to the doctor, and when the doctor had said, well, you know, this is the flu that's going around, so take him home, give him lots of fluids, and probably it'll be a good 48 hours before he's feeling better, because this flu's pretty aggressive. And you can alternate Advil and Tylenol to keep his fever down. So I did take him home, and I made him soup, and it was Christmas time, and I played Christmas carols, and we decorated the tree, and I was hanging Christmas lights, and I kept going into his room. How are you feeling, honey? Are you okay? He'd say, Mom, I don't feel good. I don't feel good. And I said, I'm so sorry. And I'd stroke his head and wipe his brow. And, it's the thing that mothers do, is they comfort their children when they're sick. And so I sat in his room. He had a television in his room, and I sat in his room. And one of the things that we did together is we used to watch Saturday Night Live. And so I sat in his room and watched that with him late. It was, I think it came on at 11:30. And his headache was getting worse. And I was concerned about it. So I actually called the hospital, and I said, what should I do? We had a local hospital that was literally like a mile from my home in Westlake Village, California. And I asked, what can I do to alleviate his headache? Because I couldn't get a hold of the doctor. And the hospital said, well, it's that type A flu that's going around. So, you know, we haven't seen him, but we have to refer you back to your doctor. So I called the doctor, and this was midnight. And then I left a message for the doctor to call me back, and he did. And it was about 12:15, and he said, you know, it's tough, the flu, it's, you know, it's going to take some time for him to heal. And so, excuse me. So I stroked his brow and said, honey, it's going to take some time, and I'm sorry you're feeling pain. And he got up by himself and went to the bathroom, and then he got back into bed, and Saturday Night Live was over. So I tucked him into bed and kissed him goodnight. And the next morning, I went downstairs, and I woke up late, and I don't usually wake up late because I had a 1-year-old child that usually wants to nurse. And for some reason, Jackson didn't even wake up early, my baby boy. And I woke up and I looked at the clock, and it was about a little before 9. And I felt this incredible sense of panic that I'd overslept. But I'm not so sure that it was that I had overslept. I think I felt this incredible sense of panic because a mother's intuition is so strong, and don't ever doubt it. And I will share with you other stories of how intuition has worked in my life. And I threw back the covers. I ran past my baby in the crib. I ran downstairs, and as soon as I was in the hallway, I knew that something was wrong. And I found my boy, and he was no longer breathing. And I jumped on top of him and started giving him CPR. And my two children, Trevor and Julianne, came running out of their bedrooms and said, "What's wrong, Mom? What's wrong?" And I said, "Call 911." And my husband ran downstairs and called 911. And at that point, there was no saving him. He had actually died at 6 o'clock in the morning from what the autopsy had said. He had died in his sleep. And it was not the type A flu, as the doctor had thought. It was actually a very, very aggressive form of bacterial meningitis. And I want to urge you that if you have children going to school and in locker rooms and in college dorms, to consider getting that vaccine. At the time, the vaccine hadn't even been created until 3 years after Garrett died. But it could have saved my child. So my child left me with such a legacy and such a purpose. And my purpose was to survive. My purpose was to love harder, to be a better mom, to rise up, to heal, to embrace others that are struggling. And so if it's okay with you, it's a pretty standard vaccine here. That's really good, Cynthia, because it is now. In fact, they require it in the schools now. At least in California, they do. And I'm so grateful that lives are being saved because of it. So, being the writer that I am, what I'd like to do, I had a stream of consciousness letter that I wrote this morning to parents who are struggling with the loss of a child. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to read it instead of trying to paraphrase it, because my love is words and my love is writing. And I want to show you a picture, one picture of, this is, oh thanks Liberty, this is my boy, that's Garrett. I'll show you another picture of him too. Oh, I have this picture too. This is Garrett when he was a little boy. Isn't he cute? He was so vibrant and full of life. Yes, gorgeous, beautiful spirit. And these hearts are gorgeous. Thank you. I'm dedicating them all to my boy Garrett. And oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. So I'm going to read this article, letter, whatever you want to call it, that I wrote. And I actually put it on Facebook this morning because I wanted it to spread so that other parents grieving the loss of a child could have this letter, and hopefully it would bring some hope, because I promise you there is life after loss. Even a child, there is life. And that's my purpose in sharing this message today. Oh, thanks for sharing it, Liberty. So I'm going to read it. And then if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, because I love talking about it. So it's kind of long. Hope you can hang in there with me. And it says, an open letter to parents who have lost a child. He likes that first photo a lot. Julie, I have goosebumps. Thank you. Okay, I put 4 pictures of Garrett on Facebook, and Julie feels him often. So, an open letter to parents who have lost a child. If you're reading this, it's likely that you've experienced the loss of a child, and I believe it is safe to say you have experienced the deepest sorrow of your life. I heard someone say grief isn't a life sentence, it's a life passage. It's the one common human experience that we all have at one time or another. But we didn't expect it to be the death of a child, did we? In the years following my son's death, I was surprised to discover no matter how great my loss or how deep my grief, the world doesn't stop. In fact, the world intensifies. And I had to learn how to embrace such a huge awareness for the unexpected. And I didn't know when I kissed my son goodnight on that night, December 19th, 18th, so many years ago, it would be my last kiss to my beautiful, beautiful boy, Garrett. I've learned so much through the grief storm that followed. Sometimes it's as though it happened yesterday. And I used to believe the cliche that everything happens for a reason. But I came to know that that's actually twisted around. It's actually, what I think is that everything that happens is the starting place to give it a reason by declaring its meaning and purpose. And that will transform the rest of your life. My theory is that every event has significance, some more than others, and we're meant to feel the deep pain and the devastating sorrow when it's a loss as deep and as great as losing a child. Have you ever felt such incredible emotion as this? I never had. Even at the birth of my children, the joy was not as intense as this kind of sorrow. After my son died, I remember thinking, how in the world could I ever feel happiness again? And I was wondering if the enormity of the pain was visible to others, and if it would forever be attached to me, that people would know that here I am, I'm Sandy Peckinpah, and I've lost a child. But I promise you, as a parent who's lost a child, it changes. And you'll reach a place beyond the pain you're in today. And I am closer to God than ever before because my tears of grief connect me to my boy in heaven. It's the golden thread that takes us beyond human life and into the realm of awakening to the spirit inside of us that feels emotion so deeply. It's beyond human experience to really comprehend it. And then we're truly able to understand what it's like to feel compassion for others. We understand without words our feelings about other people who have lost children. We just know. There's a bond between us that no one can deny. Just imagine that. What would that feel like? I used to fantasize and picture my life without the pain by asking that very question. In my meditations, I would ask, what would it feel like to feel peace around Garrett's death? And for a brief moment, I would allow myself to feel just that. And as time went on, I was able to reach that peaceful feeling more frequently in my meditations. And I celebrated that. Even just this much peace. And then I had a transition I will never forget. I was just dozing off to sleep one night when I heard the sounds of the ocean. I observed myself as a teenager with long red hair, bundled up in a coat, walking along a stretch of beach familiar to me. It was just a block from my childhood home in Pebble Beach. It was the place I sought refuge when I was a teenager. And sitting amongst the rocks and imagining my future, in my dream, I heard the sound of the foghorn, and suddenly, I wasn't a teenager anymore. And I remember that so well because my house was really close to the beach, and I remember waking up to the sound of the foghorn, and it was such a soothing, soothing feeling. And in this dream, I was suddenly not a teenager anymore. I was, as I am now, and I was wrapped in a gossamer-like veil, but it felt really heavy. I knew exactly what it was. It was like this knowing. It was a veil of sadness that was so heavy on my body, and I began to cry. Suddenly, I wasn't alone anymore, and the light was really bright. I felt love filling every part of me. Tears streamed down my face, and the ocean waves were washing around my feet, just washing and washing. My tears for losing my beautiful son were unbridled as I sobbed and sank into this portal of peace. And with each crash of the waves, I felt light and peace flooding in. I awoke suddenly aware that I was wiping tears from my eyes, and I was no longer wearing that illusory cloak, the veil of sadness. And I remember feeling it being lifted from my body, and I felt an incredible feeling of calm. I was now wrapped in such incredible love. And those of you who have experienced this kind of love, it's so powerful. It is so powerful. It was real. I fell back asleep, and in the morning, I knew that I had turned the corner in my grief. I was ready to reclaim my life. So parents who have lost children, know this. Healing doesn't mean you'll never feel the sadness again. It means you'll be able to have memories of your child without intense sadness being attached to it. Once you're aware of what it feels like to not feel it, you can never be unaware. Does that make sense? Once you're aware of that feeling, you can never be unaware of what that's like, and you can have that moment again. You'll begin to form a new relationship with your child. Yes, Liberty, thank you. Oh, Wanda Rose, thank you. You'll begin to form a new relationship with your child, telling stories, and feeling the joy that you had when they were alive. My son died on December 19th, so many years ago. And yet, I see now it was the beginning of my new life, learning how to live with the loss of my child. I had to honor his life by healing. I had no choice. I had 3 other children. I had to heal. And I've done just that. Sadness no longer defines me. I realized I had the power within me to compartmentalize the sorrow. I can still cry when I want to, but it doesn't feel out of control. Liberty, yes, you had a choice, but you made the right one. Yes, I did make the right one. Thank you for acknowledging that. I can still cry when I want to, but it doesn't feel out of control. Instead, there's harmonious comfort to it as my heart connects with the sweet ballad of his memories that go through my mind. I'm able to look at the life of my son and marvel at the 16 years, 3 months, and 10 days I had with him. His life was such a gift, and so were the lessons learned from his death. I've learned that love never dies. It's the most important human experience there is. It's a privilege and a commitment, and not always easy. I've learned that being a mother is also a gift, especially when you have them for just a short while. There's meaning and purpose to it, I promise you. What you're left with is this: no child dies without a legacy and a purpose for those that are left behind. It's up to you. I suffered the greatest tragedy a mother could ever imagine, and yet I survived. And so will you. Just try to imagine it. There are no time limits or ultimatums when you have to start doing this. Time doesn't heal this. Only your awareness will. Be good to yourself. You just begin by imagining and asking yourself, what would my life feel like if I found peace around my child's loss? And I promise you'll have brief moments of that peace as it starts to process the healing. And the healing will happen for your broken heart. Navigating loss is not an easy journey, but those of you who have lost a child and are still in that deep, deep pain, you're on that healing journey now. This is your story of triumph. Even with all the bumps and the turns and the falls, this will be your story of triumph if you let it. You have no choice. I am giving you no choice but to walk the stepping stones of grief and heal. Because you owe it to your child. You carry your child's legacy. And you will heal, I promise. And that's my gift to parents who have lost a child. And to my boy, my son Garrett. And thank you for listening to me. Does anybody have any questions or comments that might benefit others, or that you're wondering about, or that I can share with you? Because that just felt so good to be able to share my story of hope. Because as I talked about in a broadcast a few days ago, my theme is I want to uplift. Thank you for sharing Garrett and your love for him with us. Oh, Cynthia, I appreciate that. Thank you for being here. Oh, thank you for being you. Julie, thank you. That feels so good. And thank you for sharing that information. And I want to share another picture. There we go. There he is. Thank you for being so brave and sharing this on this especially emotional day. You know what? How could I not? I'm celebrating his life on this day, not just his death, his life. He brought me such incredible joy. And here's one thing I want to tell you, is that your love for your child on the day that they die, it does not stay the same. It's as though your child is with you throughout the years. Your love actually grows. My love for my son Garrett is greater than I could have ever imagined. And I can't touch him, but I feel him. And it's amazing to me. That love grows. It's the energy that's still there. It's the connection that's still there. And that will never die. You know, I woke up this morning, and I shared this with Liberty. I woke up this morning with tears on my pillow. And I know exactly what it was. And Liberty confirmed it too. She said, he was with you last night, and I feel that. I feel that the bond is so strong between mother and child, it can't be broken. As a medium, I can promise you he is still there every day more than if he were here physically. And I do feel that. Our soul is forever. Yes, it is forever. And it's a beautiful thing. And, you know, I want to tie this into something that I really feel is that all of us go through such tough times. And yet, what we have to realize about our story is that our story has value and purpose to others. And that your story is your legacy. It's the most important thing that you have. As you continue on your life, sharing your story is the most important thing you have, along with love. And so I want to help you write your story, even if it's just for yourself. I'm going to be doing talking a lot about on this broadcast, on the broadcast to come, about writing your story and how to define your story. And this isn't just for writers, because defining your story is everything. It helps you be aware of what your life purpose really is. People say, oh, I don't know what my purpose is, or I'm not a writer, or I don't know what I'd write about. You! There is nothing more important than writing about you. Your story is gold to other people. You sharing who you are is the greatest gift that you have. Being transparent with who you are is the greatest connection you will ever have. And so join me, because I'm going to be doing a 5-day writers challenge on Periscope. January 11th we start, and I've got lots of great information and worksheets for you that will really awaken you to the possibility of the next act of your life, and it's going to be amazing. So if you'd like to join me on that, you can contact me on Twitter, which is this handle @SandyPeckinpah, and you can let me know that you want to be a part of it, and then I can give me your email, and I can send you information as soon as I'm going to start up, because I'm going to have worksheets for you that I'll send to you, and it's absolutely free. Nothing. I just want you to join me. I want you to do it with me. I'm so excited. This is what I do best. You know, I became a certified grief recovery specialist a few years ago, and I'm so grateful for going through that experience, because I have walked that path with people, with my clients. I don't do it a lot because it's not the focus. The focus for me is helping people after they've gone through that loss, who are ready to recover a quality of life that they want to be excited about and love and seize the future with such meaning and purpose. And oh gosh, I love all those hearts. Wow, it's a rainbow. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. You're awesome. I love you guys so much. Also, if you want to join my Facebook group, I know, Cynthia, you just sent me a thing and I checked you off. So I'm going to post my Facebook posts on this Periscope group, Periscope with Sandy Peckinpah. And if you want to join me, that's it. Periscope with Sandy Peckinpah. It's a Facebook group. And I'd love to just have you be a part of that. So if you miss anything, that you can join me on Facebook. And also, if you have a chance to go back, because the links only last for 24 hours on Periscope, if you have a chance to go on the Facebook group, I have a link to the one that I did today about what would you tell your 10-year-old self if you happen to have that opportunity to go back in time. And it was a really great, fun, interactive broadcast that people shared a lot, and I was so thrilled to have that experience. So yeah, so yay. I'll be back tomorrow as usual, because I really look forward to our time together. You can't even imagine how much I love this. So thank you for joining me. I am so blessed to be surrounded with such support and feeling uplifted. My theme word for 2016, God bless you. You are all so awesome. And I will be back tomorrow twice, because I'm still part of Bonnie Frank's Periscope Challenge. So I have to Periscope on the topic of the day tomorrow, sometime midday, and then I'll be back at my usual time at around between 5 and 6 usually. All right. Take care. Bye-bye. Good night.